All right, the top 3 historical events that led to me. I'm not talking about whether your parents had a kiss or not at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. Although that's pretty cool also.
See, that's where they kiss for the first time on the dance floor. And if there's no music, they can't dance. If they can't dance, they can't kiss. If they can't kiss, they can't fall in love, and I'm history.
No, I'm talking about big historical events. And if there's a historical event that had to happen for you to happen, let me know in the comments. I love reading stories like that. I am absolutely fascinated by history and just the idea of what the odds were that me or anyone else would be born. All the decisions that were made.
Every decision I've ever made in my entire life has been wrong.
All the things that happened that had to happen for us to be here. And I'm not saying with these that some of these were good things that happened, just that they did happen. I mean, I love Rush. I mean, Rush is one of my favorite bands, very influential in my own life because I'm a bass player and guitar player. But I wouldn't go so far, and I would never even hint that it was a good thing that the Holocaust happened so that we could have Rush. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that they did happen and had to happen for subsequent events. So the first one, and these are in no order of importance because how do you do that? The first one is actually pretty big and affects an awful lot of us, especially if you're in the United States like I am. And that is the 1620 voyage of the Mayflower. Of course, this is the story of the Pilgrims who were escaping what they perceived as religious persecution in Europe. Yeah, religious persecution in Europe. There's a shock, right?
I'm shocked.
It turns out that my 11th great-grandparents were on that ship. Now, when they landed, of course, they passed away. They did not survive. Their daughter, Priscilla Mullen, happened to actually meet someone who worked on the ship. So this is what is really fascinating to me, is that John Alden was not a pilgrim. He just happened to be in Southampton that week, because they don't really know anything about his life before he got on that ship. But he was not a pilgrim, and it was just a job to this guy. He could have went in any number of ships and gotten work, but for whatever reason, he got on the Mayflower, where he met his future wife, and they are my 10th great-grandparents. I have a direct line to them. I know there's an awful lot, few million, easy, who are descended from those of the Mayflower, maybe even more, a million or so just from John Alden and Priscilla Mullen. But thank goodness he got on that boat, and he did that. To me, again, it's fascinating because he wasn't a pilgrim. He was just a hired guy. So it says here, he was the ship's cooper. He was responsible for maintaining the ship's barrels. So he went on to be a pretty influential guy. He did sign the Mayflower Compact, and I think they had like 17 kids. And it turns out that 2 of their great-grandchildren, one of them was the 2nd president of the United States. So John Adams is in that direct line, and then his son was also president. And then I did a video in the summertime about a cousin who is in this line. His name is James Alden, and he was a real badass in the Civil War and has a destroyer named after him. So if you haven't seen that video, we'll go in more detail. You can see that on my channel. So it's a really cool feature on Family Search that you can see the relation. So I want to just briefly go through that. So we have John Alden and Priscilla Mullins, and this is how it traces down to me. You can see here, they are my 10th great-grandparents. And so we come down here, it goes through this line that is in Massachusetts and then goes to Maine. Daniel Mayo, that's going to be it. So you have their daughter, Evelyn Mayo, married Donald M. McDonald. I don't have a picture of him, but I do have a picture of her. I need to put that in there. So it's through Evelyn Mayo, who was a direct descendant of John Alden and Priscilla Mullen. If it wasn't for her marrying this McDonald guy, I would not be here today. Now for the second historical event that led to me, big tragedy. Wow, the Potato Famine from the mid-1840s until about the mid-1850s. Of course, Ireland, it was horrific. Quite a number of people died, hundreds and hundreds of thousands starved. And between 1845 and mid-1850s, they estimate almost 2 million of the Irish had to get off the island. I'm not going to go into the political ramifications and what led to that. That's for a whole other video. But it was these conditions that led to the Cullen family, which they wound up, as we just saw. We can see Donald McDonald here with Evelyn Mayo, and you can see that his parents are Hannah Cullen and Hugh McDonald. It's Michael Cullen and Honora White. They're the ones that were living in Ireland at the time. Of course, they got married in 1828. So it wasn't that long after that the Potato Famine hit, and so it turns out that around, I can't pinpoint it because I don't have the documentation. The immigration records were not nearly as good in the 1850s as 1920s. But I do know that at least 4 of the Cullen siblings, Hannah Cullen being one of them, did come in, and it looks, I got to guess here, it looks like they came in initially into the Boston area. They were in Springfield. And so I believe based on the McDonald naturalization records, this guy, this handsome devil right here, Hugh McDonald, that he was actually in Springfield before he settled in Thomaston, Maine. What they were doing there, I don't know. But apparently that's where they met up with the Cullens, and I am assuming that because Patrick, the oldest boy, did settle and live the rest of his life in Springfield, Massachusetts. So it's kind of a big Irish part of the Northeast. So since the Cullens did immigrate from Ireland to the Boston area, Springfield, in the early 1850s, right in the heart of the Potato Famine. So it's pretty safe to assume that historical event, the Potato Famine, that's what caused them to decide to get out of Ireland and seek a better life for themselves in North America. So the third historical event that had to happen for me to happen was, of course, the Italian Unification, because prior to 1870, there was no unified Italian nation, just like there wasn't a France or there wasn't a Germany, but there were independent, cities, sometimes cities and areas. So it wasn't until between 1860 and finalized around 1870 that Sicily was incorporated politically into Italy, and so being ruled from Piedmont. And it took about a generation of Italian rule over Sicily for the conditions to get so bad in Sicily that there started to be a mass migration out of Sicily and primarily to North America. And so both of my Sicilian bisnonni, my great-grandfathers, there's Pietro Randazzo and Francesco Gargaiano. So now by 1906, things were so bad in Sicily that Pietro Randazzo and Francesco Gargaiano both left in 1906. Thank goodness they settled in Brooklyn. They settled in Brooklyn by the docks, where a lot of Sicilians from Carini and the Palermo area, especially because of language, were by the docks. They were longshoremen. That's a very common job for Sicilian immigrants. So those are the 3 historical events that had to happen for me to happen. Thanks for watching. And again, if there is a historical event that has happened that had to happen for you to happen, let me know in the comments. Again, thanks for watching, and you know what to do now.
Now go home and get your fucking shine box.